The next installment of Planar Fissure is coming up, and we know that means double the garbage. The event is already out on Asia and EU servers, so I do hope you saved it so you do know what to farm with this video. There's still about 3 hours till it does release on the North American servers as I am uploading this video. But today I'm going to be going over all the farming parts of the Planar Fissures. So going through every single ornament, what I do and do not recommend, as this is your best time to potentially get a good piece, but as we know, it's mainly just double relic remains. And so yeah, let's get into it. Starting it off with the first world, which is with Spacing Station and Ageless. Don't recommend this because Spacing Station is never the best in slot. It's usually pieces that veteran players have laying around, or if you were, clearing the world, you ended up getting a piece along the way. While Ageless is also relatively outdated as a supportive set, usually any other supportive set does better. Often Lushaka will be the option to run over this. I know it does give team-wide attack percent, but that usually doesn't really matter anymore. Overall, it is a relatively outdated set, which is why I don't recommend it. Then we do have Talia and Vonwacq. Talia is great for break characters outside of Firefly, technically Himiko, and potentially Linkshare Gallagher. That just depends on the team you are running them on. If you run them alongside Firefly, then you have the actual fire weakness implant, so you don't have to worry about it, since then you do have the Forge set, but Talia is more universal since you're not restricted to fire weakness. Forge set is better, but Talia does perform more universally as it is just a self-stat requirement, while on the flip side we have Vonwacq, which is fantastic for setups on certain characters and also great for zero cycles. I only recommend this if you do have a good chunk of break characters that could benefit from Talia, so outside of Firefly, characters like Drei, Boothill, and Linksha, so on. And you don't really want to deal with the fire weakness things, so then you can farm Talia, as those will be the next best in slots, and Vonwacq if you do have characters that have good setups, or you're a zero cycler, as this provides 5 energy regen rate, so it's easier to get your ultimate, and also practically guaranteeing the one that has the set is the first one to act in battle. Great for debuff setups on someone like Xiaochu. So if you are in the case where you could use both of them, then definitely do farm it. Otherwise, just use Relic Remains on one or the other if you only need one. Next up, we do have Pan-Cosmic and also the Celestial Differentiator. I don't recommend this world because Pan-Cosmic is never the best in slot on the characters they are intended for anymore. You still can use it on your dock characters. You still can use it on someone like Whelp, but it's really just not worth it as opposed to other options anymore, especially because it is paired with Celestial Differentiator, which is an absolute garbage set. You can have the best pieces in the world on the set, you still won't use it because that's how bad this set actually is. And just because of that reason, I don't recommend farming this world at all. Next up, we have Belobog and also Rutilant Salsotto. Belobog, not really a set that's used anymore. Can't use it on a pure defense event terrain, but the 50% effect hit rate requirement is kind of like yikes. Could be good on Japard or someone like Fire MC, where you do want some effect hit rate. On them, it's best in slot, but really, those two characters aren't really used too much anymore. Japard only if you really have no other sustain option. Fire MC, really bad sustain. So the set overall just not worth it. Rutilant Salsotto is still a strong set. For follow-up characters, it's beat out by Duran in most cases. But for characters from ult damage and such, it still can be very powerful. 8% crit rate, 15% damage dealt to follow-up attack, and also ultimates. If you do want the set, definitely use your Relic Remains because for the most part, Belobog is not going to be a set you want to farm. Next up is Rutilant Arena and Broken Keel. Rutilant Arena and Broken Keel are both still strong. Rutilant Arena is still really good for anyone that does their main damage off basic attack and skill. You can use it on Archer, Iodonic still, Anoxa, Finon. If you don't have E2 or you're not doing a speed setup on Zele, she uses the set instead. Blade, and so on. There's a lot of characters that use the set still, and is why it is still really good. And we also have Broken Keel, which just like Ageless, it is kind of showing its age. It's not really the greatest set to run anymore. 10% effect res and having 30% or higher gives everyone 10% crit damage. Usually for the characters that do equip this do want some form of energy regen rate. Unfortunately, this set does not provide that. It does give you some effect res and encourages you to build some so you get CC'd less. And 10% crit damage is nice, but it's not anything crazy anymore. So it's a lesser priority in a supportive set, but still is fine. And because it's paired with Rutilant Arena, it is overall a worth set to farm for most accounts. Next up is Glamoth and the Penacony set. Glamoth is still usually the best in slot for anyone that can hit these speed thresholds. They usually have to have a character tailor-made with a different ornament to actually function better than this. But even then, if they can hit 160 speed, it's often their best in slot, or at least second to third, by not a big margin either. And on the flip side, we have Penacony. good supportive set if you are able to actually run the effect. If you have characters that can benefit from Glamoth, such as a high-speed Zele, it can be a worthwhile set to farm. The only thing is, nowadays, as I mentioned, most characters have a different set made for them to run. Like Dock characters primarily would run this for the best damage, but now they have their own set. But if you have characters like maybe even like a high-speed Welt or a high-speed whatever you want, it can still very much use the set. But it's just not as much priority anymore. Penacony isn't really used too much. It does have 5% energy regen rate, which makes it good. You just have to make sure that the person that has it is the same type as the wearer. So with Sparkle, you'd pair with Emiya usually. So Emiya is Quantum, Sparkle is Quantum. Or you're pairing Artoria with Bronya, that's also another synergy. Or Bronya with Blade. You just want to make sure you can actually activate the effect, then it becomes good. But for the most part, usually not everyone is going to farm where they need just Glamoth anymore. And Penacony is not really what you would go out your way to farm anymore either, so usually Relic remains for one or the other. Next up is Unclaimed Desolation and also the Izumo set. Unclaimed Desolation, not really a set you use on anyone unless you want to have a purely pure fiction based set. You can stack it up decently when a actual MOC or something has spawning enemies. Or just, you know, maybe 5 enemies on the field, you can get a good effect from it. Again, 4% crit rate and up to a 40% crit damage is really nice. Only thing is, you only get the full effect in Pure Fiction, and you really don't need a set dedicated to Pure Fiction, which is why it's usually never the best slot for anyone. On the flip side, we do have Izumo, still really strong. You can put it on your Herda, as you always pair her with another Erudition character. Akron, if you pair her with another Nihility, which you always will, or if you're running something like Fei Xiao plus other Hunt, which is usually what you do, but now with the addition of Cypher, it's a bit iffy. If you still do Ratio Topaz or Ratio Moes, there's also that. This is a set you definitely would use Relic Remains on if you do want to do it. Usually these characters have a stronger set. Izumo's kind of just like if you do want the crit rate, but if you already have the right crit rate, then you don't really need the set, which is why I don't really recommend it to be farmed. So for most times, I would just recommend using this set by getting it from Relic Remains. It's not really worth the farm because on the flip side, Unclaimed Desolation, while it can be good, it's just not really worth the farm. Next up is Duran Forge. Duran is the best slot for practically any follow-up attack character, giving you up to a 25% increase to follow-up damage and an extra 25% increase to crit damage when you have full stacks. Best in slot for Yunli, Fei Xiao, you know, even Topaz if she's on the team, can be best in slot for Ratio, well, is best in slot for Ratio. Whatever team you are doing with the follow-up attack character, this is usually going to be the best in slot. Only case where it's kind of not is someone like Cypher. Cypher usually has Glamoth lead this out. On the flip side, we have Forge, which is technically the best in slot break ornament for characters that don't implant fire weakness, like someone like Firefly. So Boot Hill, Lingsha, so on. Usually this would mean you'd have to wait and see if they do have the fire weakness in battle. You hit them, and then you hit the best effect. That's a higher break effect increase than Talia, and a 6% speed increase. So if you're someone that can, you know, have no problem by just looking at the weaknesses, if they have fire weakness, then use this on the character, then this can be a very valuable set for break characters for you. Or you're just a Firefly player, and you maybe run Linkshore or Gallagher on the Firefly team, then that also does work. But if you don't have Firefly, and you mainly use these break characters, and they're not really fire-based, and you don't want to only use them when they have a fire weakness, at that point you might as well just run Talia. And on the flip side, if you have no follow-up characters, then this would not really be a one you would farm. Or if you're someone that doesn't really have break characters or have no one that wants to use a set, but you have follow-up characters, then Relic Remains. And if you have both, then it does become recommended to farm. Next up is Lushaka and Bananamusement. Lushaka is practically the best current supportive set in the game, 5% energy regen rate and also 12% attack for the character position first in the team lineup. Usually this is the best in slot unless you're doing a Vonwacq setup on, you know, characters like Sparkle, characters like Sunday, characters like Robin. 5% energy regen rate is very, very nice. And the 12% attack increase is very nice for a supportive set. Flip side, we do have Bananamusement, which this set is only really best in slot for two characters, being Aglia and Jingwan. Topaz can use it, but it's not our best in slot. Duran is better. So if you're someone that has these support characters, which most likely 99% of accounts will, and you're also someone that uses Aglia and or Jingwan, this is very, very recommended to farm. And honestly, because of how important supportive sets are, even if you don't have Jingwan or Aglia, farming this for just Lushaka is very, very valid, which is why this is just overall a recommended world to farm. Again, it would be less so if you don't have Aglia or Jingwan, then you can still opt into Relic Remains, but even then, Lushaka is just that valuable, so it is good to farm. Next up is the Bone set and also the Giant Tree set. The Bone set, best in slot for any HP scaling character that does damage. Castres, Mide, Tribi, Jinglu, Blade, so on. It is just their best in slot, 12% max HP increase, and also giving you to up to 28% crit damage increase for the wear and their Memo Sprite. Extremely strong. Again, it is just their best in slot, while the Giant Tree set can be best in slot for any healer if you do hit the thresholds. It is far none the best in slot for Hyacine, but it can be the best in slot for someone like Gallagher and also Luocha when it comes to pure healing. 6% speed increase, having 135/180 speed or higher can increase outgoing healing by the wearer and their Memo Sprite by 12%/20%. If you do hit these thresholds on other characters like Luocha and Gallagher, it is their best in slot for pure healing output. And for the most part, someone is going to have a combination of that. So if you are able to reach these speeds on your other healers, then the Giant Tree set can be a really good option to farm. So if you're someone that has those healers, or you just have Hyacine and you also do have HP scalers, this is very valuable. But if you don't really dabble in HP meta like that, and you don't really have healers that want Giant Tree, then you could skip it. One or the other, then use Relic Remains. And finally, we do have Arcadia and also Revelry. Arcadia is really only good on Phynon right now, so this set only really goes on one character, and the strength difference between this and Rutilant Arena is very, very small, overall damage being roughly less than 2%, so it's not something you really have to go out your way to farm. Flip side, we do have Revelry, which is the best in slot for any one of the dock characters doing their damage mainly. So practically any dock character that isn't Kafka. Kafka still can use this for her own damage, but often with her, you just put her on Lushaka. If you are someone that has Phynon and also has dock characters, then this becomes really valuable to farm. Otherwise, it's primarily going to be one you use your Relic Remains on, because one side, you have one set for only one character that isn't really much better than the second best option. Flip side, you have a set exclusive to dock characters. So again, if you have these dock characters, like if you have the full team, maybe if you have Kafka plus Hyacines plus Black Swan, again, ignoring Kafka here technically, just to give this to Hyacines and Black Swan, then this set does become valuable, and if you also do have Phynon at the same time, then this set's valuable, which makes this a world of farm. But if you're missing one or the other, let's say you have just Phynon, then farm something else, use your remains on this. Or on the flip side, if you have just dock characters and no Phynon, then overall it could just be something you use your relic remains on. And that does wrap this up. Pretty much the entire idea is to pick the one that has the best odds, meaning the world that has two ornaments that are very beneficial to you. For example, I need to get my Aglia on a Bananamusement set, and I also could get some pieces for Jingwon, while I also have a bunch of support characters that could benefit from better Lushaka pieces, so I will primarily be farming this. I also do have Phynon and dock characters that want the Revelry set, so I could also switch between these, so that's kind of how you want to look at it. I have a lot of follow-up characters that would benefit from better Duran pieces, but I have no one that I want on Forge, so I'm going to ignore that. If I did want to use Duran, I would just do Relic Remains. That is kind of how you want to look at it. But I do hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and send the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all the types of Star content, and I'll see you later. Peace out.